All right. So it's my week to create a video, and I thought we need some help with creativity. Like, our whole channel is based off of maximizing creativity. And Reese, I'm gonna be real with you. I know you and I both need help with this. So this week I sat down with my friend Dove and we had a conversation about creativity. So here's that interview. All right. We are here with creative master Dove from...
Hello, my name is Dove. I am a manga creator, a mangaka, as well as a YouTuber, or at least a sort of an early on, a fledgling YouTuber, if you will.
Kind of get this started. So where did you start with your creative journey?
When I was in the 4th grade, we had a class assignment to write a brief short story about a leprechaun. And at this time, I was reading Paolini's Aragon of the Inheritance Cycle, back before any of the other books even had come out. And I was really deeply interested in telling stories, especially fantasy stories. I remember I ended up writing 40 pages on notebook paper. I was like 9 or 10 years old. And my teacher, she actually saw my passion and took a whole 30 minutes out of the class time that we had allotted in order for me to read the story aloud to the whole entire class. And the class really got into it. And people were coming up to me at recess and like asking to have their characters added to the story, or to can we see this part, or can we have this happen, or is this like can this be like a villain character that shows up? And I kept incorporating it. And so this teacher was kind of a genius and a great example of a teacher for recognizing this passion in the kids and willing to let us exercise it. So I realized, okay, I genuinely enjoyed that. It was extremely fun to write, and then the engagement that I got from the class was so fulfilling. I decided I want to be a writer. And then I discovered manga. And as a kid, I grew up reading Calvin and Hobbes and other comic books, all pen and ink, right? So the transition to manga for me felt very natural, right? I decided to start learning how to draw. And this came from, as I had mentioned, I grew up reading these comics. I would always doodle in my free time. I would get like standard, one subject notebooks, and instead of writing anything or drawing like single illustrations, what I would do is I would fill the pages with these extremely crude comics. They didn't even have panels. Most of them didn't have word bubbles. It was just illustrations that followed a narrative flow in my head. That told me early on, this is something I love. And then as I refined over time, I finally came to the conclusion that I wanted to make manga when I was probably about 10 or 11 years old. And I am now 22 going on 23 and have not missed a beat on trying to achieve that goal.
So our channel is all about maximizing creativity. So we want to try to work on that. How would you say is the best way to be creative?
I feel like in a lot of ways, creativity comes from the things that you witness and experience in a day-to-day life that has been condensed through the lens of, fantasy of your mind, whether that's seeing this content creator you really like, getting inspiration from others, or seeing something in day-to-day life, like going into nature and you find something that you are inspired by. That's the whole point of inspiration, is this taking in of things from outside sources and then condensing it through your mind and then putting something out into the world from that. A good example of that is there was this one time that I had a project in my photography class where we had to make scenes out of everyday, ordinary objects. I was walking in the town and I happened to see someone had dropped a packet of gummy worms on the floor. And something about the way that they were aligned on the ground, just on the concrete, made me think about like real worms. And so I ended up going out and purchasing a bunch of like gummy bears, gummy worms, and I would make a bunch of scenes of them. This is kind of what I did with it. I think that I use that story anecdotally to say that for me, creativity comes from all sorts of different places, and it's one of the things that you refine over time. It's not something that someone has latently, it's like a muscle. And the more that you use it and the more you pay attention to things, and honestly, the more stuff you consume, the more books you read, the more shows you watch, the more people you talk to and ideas that you have, over time, that muscle will become refined and strengthened.
Do you subscribe to the idea that anyone can be creative, or do you believe that creativity is innate and is born when you are born?
Well, for that, let me go back to the muscle theory. Every human is born with muscles, barring outlier cases of like muscle, atrophy and fatigue and special birth conditions. Like everyone has the potential to maximize it. You know what I mean? You see bodybuilders go out and do wonderful things with their bodies and like really push their limits. And you have people who, go day to day and don't really pay attention to it and stuff like that. And I think it's the exact same thing. I think everyone has potential, no matter what. That is what I subscribe to thoroughly and wholeheartedly. And I sincerely believe that no person is less creative than another. It's just that the people who have gone out and have made so much stuff in their life have the advantage of having exercised their creativity and have made mistakes and have refined their ideas over a course of time and over a period of effort, just like someone who works out.
So you talk a lot about your journey starting early on. To someone who their creative journey starts later or hasn't even started, what hope or words of inspiration would you give to them to help them along their journey and hopefully catch up to where you are at?
Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, Grave of Fireflies, all of these Ghibli movies were authored by the genius Miyazaki Sensei. Miyazaki Sensei was, I believe, in his 40s or 50s when he started. I don't think that it necessarily is about starting young. It's more about starting. It's really, really easy to look at what you do and compare it to people who are younger or people who are at the same level who have had a lot more time. But what's important to note is that it doesn't really mean much. It's all comparative, Like, if you're 50 years old and can only draw a stick figure, but you want to learn, then learn. No one's stopping you. The biggest thing I would want to say is when you look back at what you have made, be proud of it because you decided to start. And that's a step that I feel like a lot of people don't take. Really, you need to look at yourself and say, like, you have recognized this idea and this passion that you want to try and pursue. And regardless of how old you are, nothing is going to stop you if you just don't let it.
Thank you so much for coming in and answering some questions about creativity. Reese, I hope this has helped you. There's the interview with Dove Manga. If you want to go subscribe to him, he has amazing manga and anime content over at his channel. I'll link in the description below. I hope you've enjoyed it. And Reese, let's maximize this creativity. All right, I'll see you later.